Welcome to the battlefield of brains, where strategy meets chaos and every move burns with intensity. Watch grandmasters clash, pieces fall, and legends rise. Wesley opens the battle with e4. His central pawn storms forward like a fearless knight, charging first into enemy lines. The war horn has sounded. Paragua answers with e6. The French defense. Calm. Zolit. And oh so annoying, he builds a thick wall and dares Wesley to break it. Wesley develops nc3. The cavalry joins the front, guarding e4, and pointing straight at the heart of Black's defense. Mark brings his bishop to b4, pinning the knight instantly. It's like shackling Wesley's horse before the charge even begins. Wesley thrusts e5. He pushes his pawn like a warhammer, claiming space and challenging Black to fight head-on. Paragua replies with c5, counterattack mode. His pawns crash forward on the queen side like tanks rolling through mud. Wesley slides qg4. Whoa! The queen leaves the palace early, pointing her blade straight at c7. He wore them away in just 7. It's a direct insult to Black's king. Mark calmly defends with n7. The knight jumps back to cover g6. A solid block that says, nice try. But not today. Iyong. Wesley captures dxe5, opening the center, saying, if you want to fight, I'll bring it right to your doorstep. Paragua immediately strikes back with bxc3. Boom. A sharp bishop sacrifice to damage White's structure. Wesley recaptures bxc3. His pawns are doubled. But he doesn't care. He's got open lines and the bishop pair breathing fire. Mark places qe7, aiming his queen at the soft spots in White's camp, setting up pressure and counterplay. Wesley calmly develops nf3, reinforcing his center, preparing for castling, and saying, I'm not scared of your queen. Mark. Antsen. Paragua takes qe5, grabbing back his pawn with precision. The queen sweeps the board like a sniper from long range. Wesley brings bd2, a simple yet meaningful move, connecting rooks and guarding c3, preparing his forces for a bigger strike. Mark castles kingside. The king tucks behind his soldiers, finally feeling safe enough to breathe. Wesley plays bd3, both bishops now aimed like twin cannons toward the Black King's fortress. Mark answers with f5. Boom. The counterattack begins. He opens lines toward Wesley's center and fights back tooth and nail. Wesley captures xsf6, snapping open the f-file like tearing down a wall, ready to let his rooks join the fun. Mark recaptures rxf6. Rook steps up, holding the line and defending his honor. The battle remains balanced. Wesley moves qi5. The queen stares directly into the king's eyes. She's not flirting. She's threatening murder. Mark pushes g6, a rough but necessary pawn shove, kicking the queen away but leaving dark squares weakened forever. Wesley calmly retreats qh5, no need to rush. He keeps the pressure while preparing to rotate to the other flank. Paragua develops nd7. Every piece now joins the defense. The Filipino GM knows he's entering the storm. Wesley castles. His king slides safely to the corner. The rook now free to roar down the e-file. Mark plays n6. A knight leaps into the fray, eager to challenge the white center. Wesley pushes c4, striking hard in the center. He's not defending. He's detonating dynamite under black's feet. Paragua responds d4, fighting fire with fire, locking the center before it fully explodes. Wesley plays rf iyong, positioning his rook behind the e-pawn, a sign that fireworks are coming soon. Mark answers b6, a slow but deadly move, preparing to bring his dark-squared bishop into the battle. Wesley's queen glides to g3, shifting her attention back toward the king's side, sniffing for weaknesses. Paragua develops b6. He finally activates the bishop, slicing across the board like a blade towards c4. Wesley jumps n5. The knight springs forward, eyes blazing, threatening mayhem on the king's side. Mark coolly places q7, covering every crack, defending and pretending he's not sweating. Wesley drops b4, a powerhouse setup, pointing both bishops at the king, preparing to break the gates. Mark calmly places c8, aiming for counterplay. But deep down he knows he's on the defensive. Wesley pushes bd5, domination. Every bishop, knight, and rook now dances in perfect harmony. Paragua retreats n8, a defensive crouch, hoping to survive the incoming thunderstorm. Wesley sacrifices n6, boom. A knight explodes into black's defenses. Fireworks everywhere. Mark takes n6, forced to accept the sacrifice. But his king's castle is now cracked open and trembling. Wesley captures on a6 with bx6. Bishop swoops in, stealing a pawn clean off the board. The queen side cracks open, and Wesley looks confident, while Mark senses trouble brewing. Paragua replies nixafur, knight jumps in to recapture, evening the score for now. But his coordination is shaky and his king side feels like a loose wire ready to spark. Wesley plays k3. The white king steps forward proudly, joining the battlefield like a general leading the charge into the endgame chaos. Mark moves nb2. The knight eyes new targets, prowling for counterplay. But Wesley's forces remain tight, unshaken by the flashy footwork. Wesley answers kd4. The king marches boldly into the center, claiming key squares, while Mark's army starts to look scattered and tired. Mark pushes a4. His pawn rushes down the flank, desperate for life. But it's a risky solo mission without backup. Wesley slides bc4. Bishop sets up a deadly diagonal, slicing through the board and halting any dreams of pawn promotion. Paragua throws a5, a small kingside jab. More emotional than strategic. Like saying, I'm still here. Even while cornered, pain when wounded. Wesley responds g3, calm and calculated, solidifying his king's cover, while silently tightening the noose around black's scattered pawns. Mark plays kf6. The black king steps forward bravely. But he's marching straight into enemy fire. Courage doesn't always mean safety. Wesley moves kc3. The king keeps climbing the ranks, leading his army toward victory with cold precision and zero mercy. Mark advances a3. That pawn sprints again. The last hopeful messenger on a doomed battlefield. Wesley just watches, unimpressed. Wesley drops bd3. Bishop locks the pawn in place like a prison guard, snapping shut the cell door. Mark shoves g5, a reckless swing for chaos. But it's a desperate punch in a lost fight. Wesley captures fx d5 clive, clean and efficient, one less pawn for black. One more nail in the coffin. Mark takes kx5. The black king personally handles business. But he's walking in a minefield of white activity. Wesley plays kb3. His king calmly strolls closer to the queenside, eyeing the final weak pawns like prizes. Paragua replies in d3. The knight strikes back, taking a pawn to stay relevant. But it's a short-lived victory. Wesley recaptures cx d3. Pawn takes knight back without hesitation. Restoring balance and leaving black with fewer and fewer ideas. Mark checks kj4. A lonely check. More for pride than purpose. Wesley barely blinks. Wesley captures kx3. The white king devours the a-pawn, killing the last queenside dream and tightening his grip completely. Paragua pushes d4, a last attempt to distract. But the counterplay is fading fast like smoke after a cannon blast. Wesley responds kd4, steady as steel, blocking the pawn's path and declaring total control over the board. Mark thrusts h4, another pawn push out of habit more than hope, trying to stir ghosts on the king side. Wesley calmly plays g3, cold precision, sealing every hole and preparing to end the struggle with textbook efficiency. Paragua shuffles kf6. The black king moves back, perhaps realizing the battlefield is lost. It's damage control now. Wesley returns kc3. White king repositions again. Patient and perfect, waiting to escort his pawns to glory. Mark advances a3. The pawn limps forward again, clinging to one last dream of promotion. Wesley plays bd3. Bishop pins that dream to the floor. Unshackable and merciless. Mark tries g5. He's swinging again, still hoping for a miracle that isn't coming. Wesley takes fx5, another clean capture. No drama. No hesitation. Just domination. Mark recaptures kxi5. The king fights back. Still on his feet, but surrounded on all sides. Wesley moves kb3, a calm sidestep. Approaching the final target area, it's quiet. Confident. Level.t. Paragua plays d3. The knight grabs a pawn. Fighting for dignity at this point. Wesley recaptures cxd3. Pawn strikes back instantly. Win. Rebuilding the wall and erasing black's last tactical hope. Mark checks kj4, a symbolic check. More a salute than a threat. Wesley's fortress doesn't even tremble. Wesley answers kxf3. The king finishes the cleanup. Eating another pawn. Sealing off the entire flank. Mark pushes d4. Another stubborn pawn advance. A flicker of resistance that dies on impact. Wesley plays kd4. King steps in front, casually blocking the pawn like swatting away a fly. Mark moves h4. One last shove. More emotional than strategic, the war is lost. But the fighter still swings till the bell. Wesley calmly plays g3, a quiet but iron-solid move. Sealing the kingside and cutting off all of Mark's remaining dreams. He's not rushing. Just tightening the noose with the calm of a predator before the final bite. Paragua shifts kf6. The black king retreats. Looking for air that simply isn't there. It's like stepping backward in a burning house. The flames are everywhere. And Wesley's endgame mastery is the heat. Wesley brings his king to kc3. The white monarch stands proud at the heart of the board, coordinating pawns like a seasoned general, ready for the final advance that will decide everything. Mark thrusts a3. The last queenside pawn staggers forward. Desperate and doomed, it's a kamikaze charge toward promotion. But the white blockade is merciless. Wesley drops bd3. Bishop anchors itself. Shutting down the a-file like locking a steel gate. It's quiet efficiency. The kind that makes spectators smirk in admiration. Paragua pushes g5, a defiant shove. Throwing dust in the air. Trying to open something, anything, but all he's doing is shaking the inevitable. Wesley captures fxd5, clean. Cold execution. That pawn never had a chance. The sound of that capture feels like a door slamming shut on Mark's remaining hopes. Mark answers kxe5. The black king steps up to eat the pawn. Still pretending to fight. But surrounded by white dominance, it's bravery bordering on futility. Wesley glides kb3. The king edges closer to the queen's side. A patient hunter, stalking the final prey. This isn't just control. It's artistry. Paragua lashes out nxd3, a last tactical jab. Knight taking a pawn for honor's sake. Hoping for one spark of counterplay before the curtain drops. Wesley retakes cxd3. The pawn snaps back. Restoring the fortress. It's surgical cleanup. Not even a flicker of risk left on the board. Mark checks with kg4. The black king growls out a check. A desperate attempt to sound threatening, but everyone knows it's just noise before the silence. Wesley captures kxa3. The white king devours the a-pawn. Removing the final obstacle, now the board is his kingdom. And he rules it absolutely. Paragua pushes d4. He's still swinging. Sending the pawn forward like a final message. I don't quit. But the words fall flat on the empty board. Wesley responds kd4. The king meets the challenge, intercepting the pawn's path with the calm inevitability of a glacier crushing what's left. Mark shoves h4, a tiny flicker of movement on the king's side. Like a man lighting one last match before the night swallows him. Wesley pushes g3, another precise lock, not flashy. Not cruel. Just professional domination. Enduring, no loopholes remain. Paragua plays kf6, the black king tiptoes. Maybe searching for miracle squares. But there's nowhere left to hide. Wesley returns kc3. The king circles back into perfect position. Patient and precise. As if choreographing the finale to his own symphony. Mark pushes a3. The pawn staggers again. Like a zombie that refuses to fall. But Wesley's army is already poised for execution. Wesley calmly plays bd3. Bishop lands like a sniper taking position, shutting the pawn's dreams permanently. Surgical and cold. Paragua responds g5. One more push. One more scream into the void. Hoping chaos might save him, but chaos bowed out 10 moves ago. Wesley takes f6c5. Neat. Methodical. And final, each capture feels like a drumbeat marching toward checkmate. Mark answers kxaxi5. The black king munches again, standing defiant among the ruins. But it's the stance of a warrior already fallen. Wesley continues kb3. The king strides majestically. Leading by example, each move is a declaration that the endgame now belongs entirely to him. Paragua counters d3, another desperate capture. Knight snatching a pawn. But it's more symbolic than strategic, a final gasp of resistance. Wesley retakes cxd. The white pawn answers immediately. Precise and unshakable, Wesley's technique is poetry made of calculation. Mark checks kj4. One more poke. One more futile check. But by now it's like a child tapping a tank with a stick. Wesley eats kxf3. The white king gulps down another pawn. And at this point, you can almost hear the audience exhale. It's over. Paragua pushes d4. Another pawn advance into oblivion. Heroic, but hopeless. Like a soldier charging into fog after the battle's lost. Wesley returns kd4. The king blocks again. Efficient. Merciless. Every square belongs to him now. Mark pushes h4. The last pawn. The last hope. Crawling forward because stopping would mean admitting defeat. Wesley plays g3, an elegant close, shutting every line, leaving black with only regret and resignation. Paragua drags kf6, retreating one final time, as if bowing out of a duel he knows he can't win. Wesley seals kc3, the white king stands triumphant, surrounded by silent, obedient pawns. The war is over. The field belongs to Wesley So, and Mark Paragua can only salute the conqueror. I'll end the video here. Please, give me a like and subscribe to my channel. I'll keep finding the best and newest videos to share with you. Thank you so much. And I wish you all happiness and good health.